Welcome to the tip channel. That is perfection. Hello and welcome back to the tip channel. Today we're going to take a look at making a cart for a John Deere 260B backhoe implement on a John Deere 1025R tractor. Now, those of you that watch my channel know that I made one for my Kubota, and so my next door neighbor asked me to build one for his brand new John Deere. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. What do they say about a deer? Nothing runs faster than a deer. I'm a Kubota man. So what do they say about Kubota? We are Kubota. It's what we do. So, sounds a little conceited. Sort of like somebody naming their company, that is perfection. But hey, it is what it is.
John Deere green and rolling fast. Dust clouds kicking as I hit the gas. Little tractor, big dreams, feels won't last. Kubota creeping, better move your ass. Run, little tractor, run. Outrace the setting sun. Kubota's on your trail, son. Run, little tractor, run. Run, little tractor, run. Outrace the setting sun. Kubota's on your trail, son. Run, little tractor, run. Blade spin.
All right, so for today's project, what we have is we have a 10-foot 4x4. Now, we may have been able to get by with an 8-footer, but my board stretcher broke, so I thought I'd better get a 10 just to be on the safe side. By the end of the video, I will let you know whether an 8-footer will work. We also have a 8-foot 2x6. Now, both of these are treated, don't need to be, but my neighbor's going to keep this implement in his basement area, so it's going to be damp and what have you. We don't want things to sort of warp and twist, so I chose to get the treated. Besides that, what we have is casters. Naturally, casters makes it move. So what I did was, first of all, I purchased a 3.5-inch caster from Harbor Freight. Now, keeping in mind when they refer to these, what they're talking about is the size of the wheel itself, not the overall height. So this actually measures about 4.5 inches. So with our 4x4, that's going to measure about 8 inches in height. So that's the ideal height that we're looking for. So for the front of the unit, I've chosen 3.5-inch casters, and these are actually good for 250 pounds each. So that means that total for the two is going to be about 500 pounds. And that's the heaviest part of our implement. Now, for the other end of this, the only thing we're actually doing is supporting the weight of the bucket. So I'm switching out to some 3-inch casters with locks on them. The reason for going to a smaller caster is that I want to put a block of wood underneath of this, just bringing this little lever that locks the caster into place a little lower so that you can get to it with your toe. Also, Harbor Freight didn't have the 3.5-inch and a lockable caster, so, or at least not at our store. Now, my whole goal about this is that I want this to be very simplistic. I want something you could go out into your driveway, down into your basement, in your garage, wherever you like to do your woodworking, and create this very simple with just a few simple tools. So let's go ahead and bring in the tractor. We'll take a look at it, how we're going to set this up, and we'll get started on this project. So here we are at the rear of the tractor. Now, I've seen some people make carts where it just goes underneath the center section of the tractor. That scares me a little bit. Let me explain why. What's going to happen the minute somebody has this parked in their garage or in their basement? There's going to be a small one jump on it and start playing. With only underneath of here, it scares me that there's so much weight on the left and right, this thing could start teetering and falling over. I don't want to see someone get hurt. So I'm not going to go underneath of the center. Where I'm going to go is underneath of the outriggers. So what I want to do is I want to make it safe, number one, my biggest point. Number two is I want to make the footprint as small as possible so this thing's not taking up a huge amount of space. I could just come out square, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take and go at an angle. What I'm talking about is I'll go from that outrigger to the bucket. Now my plan is I'm going to hit about a 1/2 inch in here. Now For my 4x4s, keeping in mind I want to go completely underneath of this, and if you look underneath of here, you'll see that the outrigger metal steps down about a ½ inch further than what the front of this does. So we'll need to make a notch in our 4x4, which we will do, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, I'm going to start by making a cardboard template. Next up, we're ready to start our template. Now, don't worry too much about writing all this information down. I will flash this up with the measurements on it in part of the video, so you won't have to worry about writing everything down. What we're looking at in regards to this implement is that the outrigger space where we're going underneath of measures 3¼ inches. So I'm going to figure that I want my 4x4 to go 1 inch past that. So what we're going to figure for that is 4¼ inches. Now the outriggers, basically the outrigger starts metal to metal at about 17. Remember I said in the previous video that I want to be about a ½ inch in from those pieces of metal, or approximately 18, but that's at 4¼ inches back. So we're running this at an angle, so just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go 18½ inches. Now, the 18½ inches is the inside of our 4x4s. So we add 7 inches to that, and our outside dimension ends up at 25½ inches. All right, so we've got the front location of the 4x4s. So now for the back location, what we're looking at is from the outrigger to the end of the bucket is 42. But remember, I wanted to go 1 inch past the beginning of the outrigger. So we're going to figure that our length is 43 inches. So from the cardboard down, we have it 43. Now I like to keep everything nice and square. This isn't real important, the next step, but here's what I've done, is that the center line, 25½ inches is what we have up here, right? So the center line of that 25½ would be 12¾ So if your cardboard's nice and square, you could just measure off of your cardboard, or if it's not, you could use a T-square and follow that center line down. So what we have down here is a center line mark of what we have up here. All right, so now we have our center line. Our bucket on the back is 12 inches, and that's what I want to end up being, keeping this footprint just as small as possible. So center line, so our outside to outside dimension, we want 12 inches, or off of the center line is going to be 6. So 6 inches on each side is the outside of our 4x4. So now we've got it marked out. So we'll go ahead and lay out our 4x4s and draw some lines. And then I'll go ahead and mark this template with the measurements so you guys can have that. At this point, we've got our angle and our sizes of our 4x4s figured out. But we need something to hold this together. So that's where the 2x6s are going to come into play. Now, I'm going to put this heavy caster, good for 250 pounds, towards the front, and I'm going to hold that about a ½ inch in on my 4x4. So you can see that this thing needs to swivel, so I need to allow room for that. Now, the casters measure about 5¾ 6 inches. So what I want to do is I want to start my 2x6 at 6½ inches back. So we're 6½, and then naturally we have a 2x6, which is 5½ inches. So that's going to be the location of our 2x6 support, which will go underneath of this unit. And we'll show that to you whenever we get into the assembly process. Now, again, we're going to need a piece of 2x6 back here to hold things together. And I've got the rear casters, and I'm going to hold that as close to the end as possible because I want this flip lever to come out past the 2x6. Also, if it spins to the side, someone will still be able to get to it. But we have to allow room for that little flipper lever as well. So we can see that the caster itself is measuring 5½ inches. So just to be on the safe side, again, I'm going to go 6½ inches to the start of my 2x6, which again is actually 5½. Anytime you're buying lumber from the lumber yard, it's what's referred to as a nominal dimension. We'll call it a 2x6, but it actually measures 5.5 inches by 1.5 inches thick. So now we've got the location for our 2x6s. So we'll be able to lay these out on our cardboard, and that'll give us the dimensions that we need to get started with. With our 4x4s cut, before we start the assembly process, what we need to do is, remember, we need to make that notch in our 4x4 for that difference in the metal. Now, looking at it a little closer, that dimension's actually about 3/8 of an inch. Remember that we wanted to go 1 inch past, but the metal itself is 3/8. So we're 1 3/8 inches back, and we have a square line marked. And then 3/8 of an inch down, I also have a square line marked. So how are we going to do that with the circular saw? First of all, remember to take your battery out or unplug your saw. Then what you're going to do is you take your speed square, turn your saw up, and for my top cut, I want 3/8 of an inch deep. I want to overcut it. So I actually have it set at about 1/2 of an inch. So I'll make that cut first, and then I'll make this cut. Now, that cut you may find a little cumbersome trying to do it in this direction. You may find a little more comfortable it's standing up. You might want to clamp it to a 4x4, clamp it to a table, keep it from moving around. But we'll reset the blade, keeping in mind we wanted 1 3/8 inches. So I'll set the blade at 1.5 inches, again, just doing a little bit more of an overcut and cut that notch. So we're finally ready to start the assembly process. And keeping in mind that the notch that we just made is on the top side, and we're working on the bottom side, so your notch should be down against your cardboard. Now, I did make a mistake in regards to the length of the 2x6s. What I don't want is I don't want a little nub of the 2x6 sticking out past the 4x4. That would give some place for someone to catch their heel on and tear their heel up. So I've shortened these two dimensions. This one was originally 14, it's 13.5. This one here, I gave you the long dimension. I actually want the short dimension, 21 3/4. So we're going to attach these two to this. Now, 2 3-inch drywall screws would probably be plenty. 3 would be better. 4 would be overkill. I'll be doing 4. With our 2x6s into place, we're now ready to attach our casters. Now, the large ones up front, I have a 1/2 inch back and centered left to right on the 4x4. On the rear ones, first of all, I did a 3/4 inch block of wood underneath to maintain the same height. Was it necessary? Probably not. Wouldn't hurt if it was sticking down, but it will make it a little nicer to get to the lever that locks it into place. Placement. I'm trying to place it as close as possible to the end and as close as possible to the outside to make it easy to get to that locking lever. Now, for this, I'm going to be using 1/4 inch, 2-inch long lag screws. I'm also going to put a washer on that, but I will take and pre-drill with a 3/16 drill bit just so that I don't split out my 4x4. The next step is what we call dry fitting. Now we have our cart made and we have it slid underneath of the machine. So depending upon your machine, you may need to make a couple of adjustments. With our cart, what I did find is that this piece of metal sticking out, our 4x4 was hitting on it, so our front dimension, which was 25.5, I changed to 26.5. Very easy to do. I just simply loosened up my drywall screws, spread it out to the 26.5, and re-screwed it into place. So we've now got it into place, and what I'm going to add to this is a 2-inch by 3-inch rip that I took out of our 2x6. I'm going to add that as a stop block, just so that it stops whenever we get it into place. The other thing that we're adding here is that I'm adding 3 pieces of 2x6s, 13.5 inches long. And that's going to be for our bucket to come down on and be able to take our pins out. This location is 7.5 inches down. Looks like that's going to work very well. So I'll get these pieces screwed into place, and then we'll check it out and see how this thing actually works.
Deere green and rolling fast. Dust clouds kicking as I hit the gas. Little track.
Now, I do want to mention at this time that in order to use just the boom to get the implement off of the machine, the bucket needs to be in what I refer to as a sweet spot. Not too open, not too closed. Once you find that sweet spot, take and put a little magic marker, mark on the back of your boom so you know next time where the sweet spot is.
And there we have it, just that easy to unhook from the tractor. Now, I did notice one thing, however, is that whenever you are collapsing the boom in order for the pins to come off of the tractor, it does put a lot of pressure against those stop strips that we did. So I am going to do one change. I am going to add a piece of 3" by 1/8" angle iron as my stops, and then I'll take a 2" by 3/8 lag bolt and go down through that. I think that will take care of any problems that may create in the future.
John Deere green and rolling fast. Dust clouds kicking as I hit the gas. Little tractor, big dreams, feels won't last. Kubota creeping, better move your ass.
Stop, that's my man.
Outrace the setting sun. Kubota's on your trail, son. Run, little tractor, run. Run, little tractor, run. Outrace the setting sun. Kubota's on your trail, son. Run, little tractor, run. Blade spin sharp, the grass won't wait. Chopping lines clean, ain't no debate. Kubota's flexing, thinking it's fade, but my Deere's got style, don't underestimate. Wheels turn, dirt flies, feel the beat. Riding this rhythm, never taste defeat. Run, little tractor, run. Run, Kubota's on your trail, son. Run, little tractor, run. Run, little tractor, run. Outrace the setting sun. Kubota's on your trail, son. Run, little tractor, run.
So how long did it take? What was the cost of the materials? Material wise, about $100. Took me realistically about 3 hours, but keeping in mind I was calculating all the parts, so I've already done that for you. I'm going to say probably allow yourself a couple of hours once you have all the materials gathered up. It'll be a great Saturday morning project. I hope that you found the video informative, and if you did, please just take a second to like and subscribe. It really does help our channel. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.